We're up and raring to go here on a Wednesday hump day on the Auburn Blitz podcast. We're glad that you joined us here this morning as Auburn hits the basketball court last night and knocks off Mississippi State 88-66. It was a raucous environment, which you would expect in Neville Arena last night as the students returned. Again, during the break, it was a great environment. Coach Pearl talked about it, but Randy, it was a crazy environment last night, and expectedly so after Auburn garnered the number one ranking on Mondays. We'll dive into that here. The junior day list, a lot of you been asking about. We're going to talk about that, man. What an impressive list it is. So we're going to big day coming up on January 25th. For Auburn football and basketball. All that's coming together on January 25th. So I hope and pray the ice storm stays away. Good Lord. Man, next week is about as iffy as next Wednesday and Thursday. Doesn't look good in this area. So I hope they're off on their weather models, but we'll talk about that later on. Program brought to you by Sensagreen. For air that's cool and clean, call on Sensagreen. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. We really appreciate them very, very much for being the partner here on the program, along with Scout Program Management now, a full-service construction management firm that specializes in educational construction projects. And we'll talk more about both of them later on, along with Bunkers and Sign Source and Lee Apparel. All right, now, good to see you, Randy.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here after a big win. It was one that we felt like we needed, even Janai Broome less. Winning those games at home, if you expect to win the SEC championship, was big. Our nemesis across the state didn't hold suit. So we got the upper hand there against the Mississippi schools, taking care of the one that we had coming to our place. So it was a great night. Can't ask for any better than an
I wondered how long it was going to take you to bring up something that happened across the state.
15 seconds. 15 whole seconds. When it's negative, it may only be 8 moving forward. Anything that I hear and see negative coming out of Tuscaloosa, you'll probably get it coming out of my mouth really quick whenever I'm passing along. Hey, look, I give them credit. And I may get a little grief out there for giving them too much credit at times with the programs they built, but I'm going to be the first one on board to jump on them when things do start falling to the wayside too, because we have given them so much credit over the year with Nick Saban. Back to this basketball team. What a win. Looked easy. I had a basketball practice for my daughter that gets kicked off tonight with one of her games. So we had practice last night from 6 to 7, Brett. So we get in the car and it's halftime. I get in. I said, Cecilia, she's a massive fan too and big sports fan. So we get in and we're wondering who's winning. Well, buddy, when you pull it up at halftime last night and you haven't tuned in for Auburn and you're up by right at 20 points at halftime with Janai Broome not playing and you've scored almost 50 points in the first half, that's a nice car ride to get into, because I must be honest, I didn't sense that we would jump on them like that, Brett. So you fill me in, from the get-go. What did you see? Of course, I've gone back, watched the highlights. I've seen the stats. I've seen who did what. But just your sense of the way that Auburn started that basketball game last night.
Well, I was there last night. Again, it doesn't matter when you go to Neville Arena now. It's going to be packed. But Bruce Pearl, there's been a lot of milestones here in the last week. Bruce Pearl's the winningest coach in Auburn history, which he's going to continue to add to that list and did last night of wins. You look at being ranked number 1. So when you add that in and then the students return, it was just, man, it is the place to be in basketball season and really any athletic season. When Auburn's playing at home, if you can get in that building, it's just such a fun time. And so right out of the gate, I noticed, you knew coming in, Mississippi State was a very, very good defensive team. Chris Jans prides himself on that. They were a team that just fell short of Kentucky and one of the hottest teams in the league. And when you look up and you hold them to 66 points, and like you said, our defensive unit that we run out, the starters, there's a lot I want to talk about this morning about this team, but the way we defend, and once again, if you look at Hubbard and how he almost averaged 20 points a game, he ended up being right at that again. But early in this game, I always watched the 3-point line. Mississippi State was 1 of 14 shooting a three. I don't know what they ended up. I can pull it up. But the difference in the game was they weren't making 3-point shots and we were. And I think we had 8. They had 1 at that particular time. And the difference in the game was about 25 points. And our defense and the way they play out on the perimeter, and Denver Jones, whoever Denver Jones locks up against, man, is going to be a rough night for them. And that's exactly what you look at. That's the difference in this team for me than any of the past teams. And we knew we had to get better at the guard position, not only scoring, but defensively. And these guys have the length. They've got the athleticism. They can guard anybody. Hubbard's one of the best. I told a buddy of mine that I was able to go to the game with last night. I said, watch Hubbard. I said, man, he's one of the best in maybe in the league and in the country. And, just couldn't really get off the screens and couldn't really ever separate to get any shots. But Chad Baker-Mazar, you heard Coach Pearl say in the postgame press conference, coaches and players recognize it when they have it. He's got it. He don't know what it is, but when you see it, he's got it. And that's what Chad Baker-Mazar has. He's a starter now, and that's what he talked about with the press yesterday. And the difference in last year, he didn't start the first 22 games of the season, then worked his way into a starter role, and then how hard he works on the floor and in practice. And then Chaney Johnson in transformation, he's 25 pounds heavier than he was last year. Nobody has ever worked harder than Chaney Johnson. Bruce Pearl said that last night. He's never coached a player that works harder than him. He said, normally I'll throw 2 or 3 other names in there just so I don't hurt feelings. But he said, ain't nobody arguing on this team. He said, nobody would come up to me and say anything when I come out here in front of y'all and say Chaney Johnson is by far our hardest worker. And then you add Miles Kelly in, and he talked about Miles Kelly and how last year at Georgia Tech he had to work so hard because he was the guy on the team. So there was a lot on his back. He doesn't have to work that hard this year. He can let his game come to him. And man, he is becoming a consistent player for Auburn at that position. So Randy, you said it. When you look up and you score almost 50 points at half without your star player, man, you got a special team.
You do, and I'm not shocked. You do know what Mississippi State has done so far this year, so you are expecting maybe a little bit closer match than you were thinking. But a couple of those that I'll hit on. First off, defensively, I keep harping on this, but our physicality on the perimeter is such a nice change from what we've seen in previous years. And I'm not knocking the effort that we got from Zep Jasper and Wendell Green and Aiden Holloway, or you keep going down the list. I mean, all of those guys, if you play for Bruce Pearl, you're going to give effort. And all of those guys did give tremendous effort. And I did probably come on many of the shows that we did during that stretch and applaud their effort from time to time. But when you got the length and the strength and the size and the athleticism that our guards have now, you don't get matchups that don't go in your favor. And, last night, when you look at Hubbard, he's 5'11", looks like a running back, 5'11", about 190, 195 pounds, built nicely, a tremendous athlete, but he's matched up with a 6'4", 210-pound guard in Denver Jones, and that's not a good matchup if that guy can keep you in front of him. And Denver may make a lot of money because he has bought in to him, he being the best defender on this team. And yes, Chaney is an amazing defender, and Dylan Cardwell is an amazing defender, and I'm glad that we've got them down on the post. But Denver Jones is the best defender on this team right now, Brett. And I don't think anybody would question that. And if you had to ask for what does Auburn need coming into the season, how many times did I say that last year? One reason that I feel like we lose basketball games is at times when we're getting pressed, when we're getting pushed, and we got long, lengthy, strong guards on us. I go back to that Miami game that we lost when we had reached the #1 ranking in the country then. When they pressed us out, when they put a lot of pressure on Wendell, it really made us extend our offense, and we couldn't get the ball down in the post, and it was just a struggle. I don't think you're going to see that with this squad. And it's because of what Bruce Pearl, he's a magician, Brett. I walked in, and I know we've got a lot of mutual friends that tune into us every morning. So those of you that know my good friend Bo Glenn back here that's printing beside me as I speak, Bo walked in. He said, "Randy, I've got something I want you to say on the podcast this morning." He said, "A buddy of mine wanted me to bring this up to you." He said, great high school coaches coach both basketball and football. Why can't we get Bruce Pearl to go ahead and coach our football team?"
I don't know. I don't know that many people right now would have any problem with that. And I think you summed it up with the physicality. You know, Coach Pearl, some more things that he said in his conference last night. He said a team like Mississippi State defends very similar to Auburn. He said they get in the passing lanes. They make it very difficult. So you have to have guys step up and make one-on-one plays, and they run you deep in the shot clock. And they did that last night, and you had Miles Kelly make one-on-one plays. You had Chad Baker-Mazara make one-on-one plays when you just got to say, okay, I can't – they're defending us so well, I've just got to take the ball and make a play. And we were able to do that. And
length
and getting in the passing lanes for both teams and being able to get around defenders. Also, I thought it was key to watch. They were going to attack us inside, and they were going to try to get us in foul trouble because they knew we were down. Randy, neither team made it into the bonus in the first half. I've never seen anything like it. I don't remember seeing or being at a game where a team didn't make it in the bonus in a half. I think we ended up with 6 fouls in the first.
4.
And
I think it was 10 total at half.
6 and 4. And look, they let them play. I mean, this was 2 physical teams. I mean, Mississippi State's a good basketball team. And I don't think you need to take away from that game last night what Mississippi State is. I think you can take away from that game what Auburn is. But I don't think you can take away from that game what Mississippi State is.
Well, I'll tell you what you can start taking away from Mississippi State is after a while, facts are facts. And they gave up 95 points to Kentucky, and they just gave up 88 to Auburn. So we give them a lot of benefit for how great they are defensively. But the next time that Bruce Pearl in a back-to-back game gives up an average of 92 points.
Well, what I'm saying is that they didn't shoot the ball well from outside. Again,
defensively, that has nothing to do, Brett, with.
Well, I'm not arguing with you. Yeah, I'm not arguing with you.
Well, I think
I'm just saying that I think you're going to see over time that they're a pretty good team. They're very physical, and they do have good guards. And when you go on the road and #1 place in the country, hell, there's a lot of people who ain't going to score much. I mean, we've taken really good offensive teams and made them look stupid.
They gave up 95 at home to Kentucky.
Well, Kentucky's pretty good. And I mean,
Kentucky, but I think we're equal to Kentucky. I think my point is that I think that there are 4 or 5 teams that are really about to separate.
They also beat South Carolina by 30, and we barely beat them.
Well, I hear him give this team here, this team there.
I think that's the way it is in this conference outside of us right now. Maybe you have to look at it that way, and you don't know what somebody's going to do from game to game. I know what we are. I know we are a consistent defensive team.
Okay, that's all I was trying to say. I mean, I'm saying that. Well, I did. I said that they've given up 92-point average in the last 2 basketball games against 2 of the best teams in the conference.
Right.
But if you give up an average of 92 points per game, I don't care where you are. You've got to figure that out. And Hubbard he's a mini-mite out there, Brett. Look, he may be dynamic on the offensive end, and I don't watch them every game, but he's 5'11". He's what I just said we have struggled with.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm not arguing.
He has not got the length to defend a Miles Kelly consistently and not allow Miles Kelly and that's whenever when you're doing a lot of switching up top, which these teams force you to. They try to get the matchups that they want. I mean, how many times, Brett Pritchard, did you get on here over the last 5 to 6 years and say, we got to figure out how not to switch? Because we're matching up with these teams, and they see these mini mites that we've got out here at guard, and they end up on these 6'7", 6'8" wings. And it's not playing in our advantage, and
Right.
that's when we're getting taken advantage. Now, I mean, you switch for us, you're switching a 6'4" Denver over to a 6'6" or 6'7" win.
Right.
And Denver's strong too. So we don't. I'm trying to give Bruce Pearl's change and his thought process around what you recruit at the guard position the benefit of the doubt here.
Well,
Because
here's
we
a
all
great
sat on here and really hit him hard when we were, and when, nobody's hitting Bruce Pearl too hard, but the only complaint that we had was we had small guards and it would show up at times and bite us. He changed that.
He changed his philosophy, and you had to.
Sure.
You know, he changed his scheduling philosophy a little bit. I don't think it was drastic. I think we all made look. Of course, it was over the top this year, but I mean, we played some pretty decent teams. Maybe not as many, but we had shots at 2 or 3 quad one wins in pre-conference scheduling in the last several years. This year we had 6 before the SEC schedule even got started. My point about Mississippi State, I'm not going to make this about Mississippi State, but my point is they're number 15 team in the country. They have played 2 of the best. I think maybe that could argue maybe obviously Auburn's number 1, but Kentucky's got an argument that they're 2, 3, or 4 in the league. Mississippi State plays Ole Miss Saturday at home, so we'll see. I mean, Ole Miss is the only other team undefeated right now in conference play, and we'll dive into that. But no, to get back what we were talking about, Auburn. My point is Auburn is going to defend everybody like this every night, and that's the really good thing. Even when you lose a player like Janai Broome, is that I was worried about our offense fall off last night because of so many things that go through him on the offensive side. Didn't happen. Chaney Johnson stepped up. Chad Baker-Mazar stepped up. Miles Kelly stepped up. I thought Todd Pettiford, he gets on heaters. And he got on a heater last night, and he had an athletic, unbelievable windmill dunk. I mean, it's, you think he's smaller, and he is smaller, but for what he's able to do and his athleticism, it is amazing. So if you look at it, Baker-Mazar had 20 points. He's so efficient, man. That's the thing about Chad Baker. He's 8 of 11 shooting. He had 20 points. If you look at Hubbard last night, he was 2 of 12 shooting, but he had 17, but a lot of it was at the free throw line. He was able to get to the line. Good guards are going to do that. We see Mark Sears do it. Mark Sears makes his money getting to the free throw line. So, but you go down this list, Denver Jones and Miles Kelly both had 13. Dylan Cardwell was 4 of 6 inside. He was able to clean up boards. We did a better job on the boards, although we did get beat again. Mississippi State out-rebounded us again, so that has become a chronic problem. I think they had 40-something rebounds, and we had 30. So we are, we got timely rebounds, but again, that's a problem. We've got to figure out something there, and it may be something we have to fight through, Randy, because if you got 4 games into a conference schedule and you've been out rebounded in all of them, then that's a trend. That's not a happenstance. That's a trend, and that's not a good trend.
No, I don't think it's a good one once you go on the road and play some of the better teams in the league. You give them second chance points with offensive rebounds, it's going to step up and bite you at some point. So what a win. What a great start to the season. So much fun to watch the number 1 team in the country hold suit at home when they don't have their best player. When you ease through a win against the number 15 ranked team in the country without your best player is a storyline in itself. And our good friend Jason Caldwell mentioned that last night. Maybe the most impressive win of the season to him, minus Janai Broome, and to win that game the way that you did against a very talented and well-coached Mississippi State squads was really impressive, Brett, last night.
I totally agree. Let's get to some comments. Got a lot of them pouring in. Glenn, you're right. I need to take my snow gear next week. It's going to be 9 degrees on Inauguration Day. 9 at night. Now, it's going to get up to a real balmy 28 that morning. So, yeah, going to be a lot of fun in that for sure. Justin says wore down. Absolutely. Glenn said you can't win on the road shooting 3 of 24 from 3. Yeah, Mississippi State, when you look down 3 of 24, Death knell, man. You saw it happen to Tennessee at Florida. You keep shooting threes and they don't fall, man. You look up, you're down 25. And that's just the harsh reality. Jerron says war down. Absolutely, Jerron. Feels good to be the number one team and to play the way we did. Glenn said AU length is a problem for offenses. You said that just a minute ago, Randy. There's no doubt about it. That's the difference now. Ed said, I'm going to say one thing. You can have all the talent in the world, but when I look up and down that bench, see a bunch of players that want to win, and it starts with Bruce Pearl, effort. CBM and Chaney are dogs. I mean, they just look different. Chaney just looks different. He's not the same player. Also, I'm really proud of Ja'Kai Howard, Randy, and what he's done transformationally with his body language and the way he plays, and knowing that he's working his way into the lineup more and more and getting more and more minutes. If you look down at his stat line, he played 14 minutes last night. He only had 2 points, but he only shot 3 times. But he gets in there and he gave great effort. I watched him on the floor last night. I was really, really proud. Justice said, surprise, Florida went down at home. We're going to go around the SEC. It was a shocking night last night. He said last year should have had quite a few quad one wins, but most of them were having bad years, and it hurt us. True. No, good point there, Hugh, for sure. So we'll catch up. We'll keep bringing in some comments. We still got them pulling in, so we'll get back to some of those here in just a minute. Randy, and at this time, we want to go back and thank some of our sponsors again. We thank Sense Green and Scout Program Management coming in on the front side. I want to do that again midway through the show since they're our lead partners here. Sense Green, for air that's cool and clean, call on Sense Green. And Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm from pre-construction through the construction process. They will take you all the way through, and they do a really, really good job on everything that they touch. And just great people up in Birmingham. So if you're looking for somebody to manage your construction project, call on Scout Program Management there. And then, of course, Bunkers, downtown Auburn, West Glen. Randy, you and I can't say enough about Bunkers and what they do and the environment they have and the bar and the food and to be able to go in there and play simulated golf while you're hanging out with your buddies and watching all the sports games on TV. That's just a cool environment, isn't it?
Yeah, great location, easy to park. You got 50 spots underneath that you can go in and park. So no problem as Auburn continues to grow. It's harder and harder to find places to park out on the road where you can go under the deck and have the spots underneath. So Bunkers, beautiful place. If you haven't been by, we highly suggest that you do there on West Glen.
Yeah, and Sign Source and Lee Apparel, we know we'll say some more about them at the end of the show, but new building location in Auburn. I know you'll talk about that a little bit more, Randy. So for all your sign needs and all your apparel and promotional product needs, make sure you call on Lee Apparel and Sign Source. All right, getting back to some of these comments that are pouring in right here. Justin said, thank you, Hugh. Luke, the Bammer, say that AU's schedule last year was horrid. It was 16th toughest in the country before the season started last year. So, yeah, I think a lot of times, your schedule strength is based on obviously the teams you play and how they're playing. And sometimes they don't have and live up to quite the billing that they were supposed to, and it hurts your strength schedule.
It does. We've seen it in football a lot. But I will take this chance right now in basketball. You want a hard strength of schedule. Football still got to let us know what they want, Brett. I'm not going to beat a dead horse there, but we need to know how much this committee is going to buy into how hard your strength of schedule is outside of the conference schedule. Because back to that 16th ranking that Justin brings up, as long as the SEC is as good as it is in basketball this year, you may not have the toughest strength of schedule year in and year out. You got to know what your squad is. This is a 10 senior laden squad here for Bruce Pearl that he had a lot of confidence in, but I don't think you want to throw maybe next year's squad into the fire quite as much as you threw this year's squad. You got to kind of know what you have coming back and how many games it may take to get your sea legs under you, Brett. Back to the football, they proved with the committee that it wasn't as important. I mean, Auburn's going to have a strong enough strength to schedule every year in football that if we win and get through that ringer and only have maybe a couple of losses, we're going to make it into that playoff. And we've already said that that's our goal. In basketball, I do. And what do you think? I mean, I think you got to weigh who your team is. There are some
I
teams
definitely think you have to.
you want to push, and then there are others you want to kind of tiptoe your way into the season.
We'll see what Bruce Pearl wants to do next year, when he's replacing 10 guys. I know there's a possibility of Denver and Chad Baker being back through the Diego Pavia rule and stuff, and that may happen. But for the most part, you're gonna have a mass exodus here because you got 10 seniors, and you're gonna have to replace some key players. So we'll see what the mindset of Bruce is next year going in. But he said that. He said, we wanted to challenge this team. We knew they were going to be, a team that needed to be challenged. We wanted to see how we matched up against the best in the country. And right now they're proving to be the best in the country. Renzi said Denver held Josh Hubbard down to 0 of 3 on 3-pointers. I mean, 0 3-pointers. Yeah. Shot more than 3, obviously, but didn't hit a single 3 out there, and just really locked him down and struggled trying to get his shot. I'll try that, Justin. I thought about that. As I move around and from start to finish.
I know a guy that can edit that together for you too.
Yeah, I think I do too. So
what I would do is I would shoot it, and then that audio guy that's commenting right there, I'd send all the video back over to him, and then maybe here on this podcast in a couple of weeks, our good friend Justin can send the video through, and you can show everybody how it went.
That's a
good idea. That idea?
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Probably a home run idea. Hugh said Alabama got mobbed by Ole Miss last night. We're getting to that. We're on our way to that. We're working our way that way. Right now we just need wins in football from whoever we play. Amen to that. Just win. Just freaking win. Looks like the coaches are trying to get some rules for this NIL trend.
Get on it, Brett. That was big for you yesterday.
Well, it is. I think the American Football Coaches Association, which I guess encompasses all the college football coaches, are finally coming together, and they've had enough, and they're petitioning the NCAA to eliminate that second window of the transfer portal, the spring window, and to give a 10-day window after the bowls for the transfer portal, and that's it. You get 10 days. You either get in it, figure it out, or get back to business. That's enough, man. I mean, we've all said it. I mean, 2 down transfer portal windows, free agency every 6 months. How can you really judge a coach and a program when they have that many moving pieces all the time? When you think you got something, we finally got what we got to get. Now they got to start coaching and figuring out how they're going to win games. And all of a sudden they go, well, coach, I'm not here anymore. It'd be like showing up at practice every day and you go, where's John at? Well, John's sitting this one out this month, coach, because he's thinking about going to so-and-so. I mean, it's just the uncertainty of what you're going to have to work with. And you can't build any continuity and any consistency when you got a revolving door going on. So I'm excited. Surely some common sense will kick in. You said it yesterday on the show at lunch. I mean, that just closing that second window will start to alleviate a lot of this junk that we're talking about. It's just common sense, man. It's 2 simple amendments. It's what are the players going to do? Boycott? Well, boycott, man. If you don't like it, then go figure out where you're going to play. But we're going to close one of these windows, and you don't need to try to go somewhere after spring. If you're bought in and you're committed up through spring practice, you shouldn't be able to hightail it out of there unless it's a special circumstance, which you can still petition to leave if there's an extenuating circumstance. But just because you get pissed off and you didn't think you got enough reps in spring and somebody was ahead of you, doesn't give you the right to haul ass and get in the portal. I mean, I'm sorry.
I agree with you. I think at a certain point you do have to put your foot down. And the other one that I really like that you brought up about a month ago is, when you sign somewhere out of high school, you're there for 2 years. And then at that 2-year window, you're a free agent. And that school, even that you signed with, they've got to pony up. If you've had 2 great years, they got to pony up and pay you for those next 2 years or those next 3 years if we extend this thing out to 5 years all the way around. And I like it. I want the kids to get their money. I want them to get their worth. By no means let me say that, but I don't think that you're doing an 18, 19-year-old man any benefit by giving him too many options. I don't know about you.
No,
The moment I had a whole lot of options, there weren't good decisions being made. And I don't think that I'm the only one or anybody that's tuning in out here that was 18, 19 years old. If you can come to me and say, buddy, I made a whole bunch of great decisions when I was 18 and 19 years old. And I didn't need any structure because I went off to college with some great raising and had the structure in place. You're an anomaly in my life, because most of the people that I know needed some structure and needed something in place that kind of kept them between the lines. So I hope there's not a lot of gray area too, Brett. The moment that you start making a whole lot of concessions, well, people are smart enough to realize where those gray areas are, and they'll come up with any reason in the world to get out of something to go somewhere else. And we've seen that over the years. So I'm hopeful that first one leads to the next one, and the next one is you're under contract. The contract's this for the first 2 years that we get you out of high school. You can make all the money you want in NIL. Now I'm talking about the original setup of NIL, name, image, and likeness. Go out there, hire an agent, do whatever you need to do, bring as much money and value into yourself for your family. But you're going to work on this contract if that's the new setup that we've got through the collective. And that contract, go back to DCU that you brought up a couple of weeks ago. What was that? $384,000 a year if you're signed with DCU. That's the minimum range.
That's
just like that's VCU. What do you think that number is for Auburn and Alabama? I've got to just guess a whole lot more. Let's just keep it at that. But my point is that sign that deal. And if that's the game that you're playing, be done with it. But you can't sign deals and then change things right in the middle of the season, because I agree with you. It makes it tremendously hard for these coaches to do anything with a kid from a development standpoint if they don't know they're going to be there or not.
I mean, again, I don't know how you can hold and be so harsh on coaches. Now, yeah, you can hold them accountable for certain things, but when they're having to manage rosters in and out, and look, that goes for all of them, even Kirby, and if you want to add Kalen DeBoer in and what he's dealing with at Alabama, I mean, they just had a lot dip out. And they brought some guys in, and they're trying to figure things out, and he's trying to get his players in to kind of fit his system. But I said it the other day, all of these teams have question marks, whereas in the past they didn't. And they have question marks going into the season mainly because of all this portal stuff. I don't have – the NIL isn't the problem. It's the transfer portal. That's what's got to be fixed. And surely, I mean, and finally somebody – wised up and looked up and said, man, maybe we don't need that second window. Why did you put it in anyway? I mean, literally, there was no reason. All of this has just been created by the powers that be, whoever you want to name that to be, the NCAA or these committees that come together and implement these rules. Well, if you put them in, you take them out when you find out they're not working real well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. You said he was afraid. He'd been afraid he would kill himself at 18 with that much money. Again, are you setting kids up for success, or are you pleasure islanding it for a short term and then ripping the carpet out from under them, the rug out from under them later on, and they're having to regress back to a lifestyle? Once you get into a lifestyle, I had an old coach tell me that a couple months ago. He said that's the concern he's got more than anything. You give them this lavish lifestyle, and most of them aren't going to be able to maintain it when they get out of college, because they're not going to have all this clamoring and everybody giving them all this stuff, because they're not going to be able to go on and play professionally. So they're going to have to get a job. But they're used to all these hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars, and cars and all this other stuff. And then when you take it away from, like he said, all that stuff gets old. And we know good and well most people don't manage their money. So they're going to blow through that because they think just more is going to blow in. And so you set them up for a bad situation mentally. They got to go out now, and they were living this lavish lifestyle. Now they don't have it anymore. It's a good point.
It's a good point, but that's human nature in itself. I mean,
But you're setting them up for that.
Well, you can set them up, but I mean, that's their own fault. If they make poor decisions and they don't have good mentors around them to feed them some good advice, then look at the NFL. I mean, those guys come out at 37 years old, maybe the NBA, Major League Baseball. I mean, I don't care what part of your life you're in. You can make mistakes enough to lose everything that you got.
But I think what you were saying is that at 18 and 19 or 17, you're going to make them a lot more.
Well, I think that you need to keep them around some consistent structure. I don't know. Most need structure. And if you let people bounce all over the place, there's no way to set up structure for them. Whereas if they've got to commit to a program for 2 years, and I mentally know that I'm committing to this Auburn football program and all the amenities and administration that's surrounding, I'm buying in to what's going on there a lot more than if I looked at it like a quarterback that's only here for 10 months and then he's going off to the next thing because he doesn't think that it's going to work out for him here. And I'm just using quarterback because that's the last one that top of mind that happened at Auburn. So I don't have a good answer on. You can't fix that.
You can't fix that. No, you can't be the keeper of somebody after they get out.
Of anybody anywhere. So it's their own fault. At that point, though, Brett, it's their own fault. I've always been a proponent for the kids to get paid what their worth is. I don't care when that worth arises, but once it arises, you get paid what it's worth. But you got to have good people around you to give you good advice. And you and I have been one to talk to many that have had the good fortune over the years of getting opportunities. And some have done well after that, but many haven't. I don't know how you fix that, though, Brett.
No, I don't either. But, very good advice from a very well-respected coach that I talked to that felt like, there's already enough issues out there, and you create more issues and you put them in, because unfortunately everybody doesn't have a good team around them and you got a lot of sharks in the water, especially when you get that kind of money and you get those kind of benefits and you're immature. You may not have the structure at home for somebody to help you. And like you said, to go to your point, when you're in a program and you stick with a program, that's your best shot.
Yes.
You have consistency and some people that do care about you. But when you float around all over the place, it is highly probable that you're going to fail. And always looking across the fence to the other pasture, thinking the grass is greener. And it's not always that way. I mean, look, I'll say this. I used this as an example last night. Remember, Walker Kessler was going to be Auburn, right? Auburn. And then all of a sudden, he takes a trip to North Carolina, and he makes the phone call to Bruce Pearl. And I think Bruce thought he was kidding. I think that would floored Bruce Pearl more than anything he'd ever had happen to him in the recruiting process, is that he had a guy locked down. He knew he was going to North Carolina to visit, but he didn't feel like – he called him and told him he was flipping to North Carolina. And, and they talked to him, and I think maybe Bruce has even come out, and maybe Walker Kessler's even come out since then and say he got swayed in the moment up there and made a knee-jerk decision. Well, got up there, and what happened? Didn't like it. Didn't play very much. Comes back to Auburn, where his heart was originally thinking that he needed to be, and he comes down here and flourishes, and he's having a great NBA career. And he played outstanding at Auburn. So a lot of times your gut's right, your heart's right. And just because somebody dangled a flashy object in front of you to try to sway you away in the moment, you kind of got to stop, take a step back and look and say, hey, I need to fight through some of this. This is where I need to be at the moment. So I just used that last night as an example, talking about, players moving all around.
Big time junior day coming up. Let's transition into that, Brett. Great win last night, but this junior day with the list that Hugh Freeze and this staff's bringing in, you can You can have issues with what we're getting from a product on the field standpoint, but you can't have any issues with the effort this coaching staff's giving, along with Hugh Freeze recruiting.
Right. Let's get a real comment before we go into that on basketball. Renzi said, my sister is Janelle Jones, Denver's mother. She feels the same way that you do. She is all about these college athletes getting a degree first so they can learn money management beforehand. Renzi, we've talked about that till we're blue in the face here. We brag on Denver a lot. I think Randy just said early in the show thinks Denver's a pro. And I think Denver can play in the NBA. With the way he has the physicality on the defensive end and his skills, obviously offensively. But I love to see that, again, you have structure. You have somebody behind the kid talking sense, that how it's still important to get a degree and to get something under your belt because you don't know what the future holds. We think we might know what's going to happen, but you don't know what kind of curveball you're going to be thrown in life. But what you can't ever take away from somebody is their education and show that, hey, I went through it and I got my degree and I do have a potential for a career. So, Renzi, appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate his comment here because Denver was a good player last year. He was a consistent scorer for us, and he was a good defender. But he's great at both this year. And his ball handling has improved and his development has improved so much over the year that let's say that he may be expected to score 16 to 18 points a game last year like he had before, and then doesn't give himself the time to develop. Because here's what I see with Denver, and I said this early in the show, Renzi, is one of my favorite players over the last 25 years is Bruce Bowen. And Bruce Bowen made life a living hell for whoever he matched up with defensively. And he made his bread defensively. He was strong. He was good on the offensive end. He could knock down shots. I'm not saying he was the worm out there where all he did was rebound and play defense. He wasn't that. But Brett, am I wrong? There's one player that you point to, and I think that there's a place in the league for those type of players that commit to being the best at certain things. And when I watch Denver Jones play right now, whoever he matches up with, it's not going to be a fun night because you're not going out physical him. He's matching up with the best guards, the best shooters they've got. Right. And he's stronger and bigger at 6'4". I don't know what he weighs. He got to weigh 205 or 210. But he keeps everybody in front of him. And I think his development, though, that's the beauty of Bruce Pearl, man. You look at Chaney Johnson, development. And Bruce Pearl gets a lot of the credit, but it's a lot of those. Yep. It's a lot of those other guys that deserve a lot of the credit that we've had around a long time. And I've watched them in the gym working with these guys, but they just look different. You stay around Bruce Pearl in that program for a couple of years, you look like a different player, and that's development.
Yep. We said it, Renzi. I don't know if you caught it at the very beginning, but that's what Coach Pearl said in the press conference last night after the game is that, whoever Denver's guarding, it's going to be a rough night for them. And that's the intensity he plays with defensively. This is a couple of times now he's been put on Hubbard in the last 2 years, and Hubbard has struggled. And it's because of that. Now watch, I don't know what Hubbard will do Saturday against Ole Miss. I would dare say that he won't face a defender like Denver Jones. So we'll see what he's able to do against the only other undefeated team left in the league outside Auburn, and that is us, and that's Ole Miss. I do want to say this before we get into the Junior Day thing. I do want to talk about. We said we'd go around real quickly, Randy. Last night in the SEC, got 3 more games tonight that we'll talk about. But the schedule last night, first of all, Ole Miss goes in to Tuscaloosa and gets a 10-point win. Better not sleep on Chris Beard, man. He's got this team at number 21. They're undefeated. Now they have worked their way into the talk. Nobody was saying Ole Miss before even 2 games into the season. It was Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Kentucky. Well, you got to talk about them now. They're 4-0 in SEC play.
Well, they deserve to be talked about. I watched enough of it last night. Once I got comfortable in the second half of the Auburn game to tune over and see how that one was going. And the thing that I see different with Ole Miss in comparison to last year is Ole Miss could score the basketball last year. They had 2 or 3 great offensive players, but defensively they didn't hold up that intensity on the defensive side like you see that. But I think they have bought in to that Bruce Pearl type of effort on the defensive side of the ball, Brett. And you go into Tuscaloosa and you hold that team down to where they held Alabama down. That's like when you and I had a little back and forth earlier. When you give up 92 points, Mississippi State, and back-to-back games in the SEC, I don't care who you play, and that's a problem. But
Big
also,
time.
I'm going to give Ole Miss the benefit. You go over to Tuscaloosa and hold them to that point total that they got. You've got to give them the benefit too. And that's a good-looking Ole Miss team. But, as I watch them offensively, I still like our chances. I'll say that. When I watch them, I'm not knocking them, but I mean that's my vision's on how do we match up with some of these teams. And the way that we match up with some is we're getting to the 80 to 88, 90 point total when I don't think we're playing our best offensively, and maybe that's what separates us from some others.
Jeff just put a comment on here, and I'll put it up there. This was the next thing. A couple things I was going to say about Ole Miss. First of all, they had 70 shots. Alabama only got 47, and they talked about that in the post game last night. The other thing was Alabama had cut that thing back to 6 under a minute. Guess what Ole Miss did? They went to the free throw line, and they made their free throws. I love their inbounds play. When they had Brakefield throwing the ball in, as soon as they threw it in, they threw it right back to him. He was in control. They fouled him. He went to the free throw line. He knocked his free throws down. There was never a doubt. They had a organized plan. A lot of teams that go into a place like Coleman Coliseum, and they've played well, but it tightens up in that last 2 or 3 minutes, and the home team starts to come back. They fold under the pressure. They never wavered, and that's why they won the game. They were 14 of 16 from the free throw line, but the shot discrepancy was what is eye-opening. Alabama only got 47 shots last night in that game. You can't score like they're used to scoring when you only get that many shots off. So they suffocated them.
I hope the blueprint's set. Watching that game, I sense it is. This team does not shoot the ball as well as last year's team for Alabama or the year before that.
Yeah, they were
the perimeter.
5 of 20 shooting from outside last night.
And Aiden Holloway may be the best shooter of the bunch outside of Sears, but
hey, he had 15 points last night, man.
I know he did, but if he's the guy that's got to go get them for you, I'll take my chances. I've seen all I need to see of that.
Look, Sears isn't having the year, Randy. People can say what they want.
Well, he had been. He's still averaging right at 19 points per game. I think the issue that when you and I do it on Saturday when we do the program with Luke, Sears this year, it's just a little bit less of a feel that he's got to take basketball games over like he did last year. And at times I watch him, he does. This past Saturday he did, Brett. He went off. But then you get midweek, so it's a little weird to watch them. But I hope that stays the same because you know how much I think Mark Sears. I think he's the best point guard in the country.
Well, and then LeBaron, one more on there. LeBaron Fallon was 0-8 from the field. He only had 1 point. So, but Mark Sears played 39 of the 40 minutes and only shot 8 times last night. That's got to change, man.
Last year with him, he could get a shot anytime down the court. And it would be ugly. He'd get to the foul line.
Why wouldn't they do that again? I mean, look, if I'm Nate Oates, you're looking at this film and going, we're changing this, guys. That our best player is not going to only shoot the ball 8 times moving forward. I would be shocked if you see that again. So Jeff also added that Alabama turned it over 31 times. I think Auburn turned it over 10 last night, Randy, and Coach Pearl said 7 of those were steals by Mississippi State, which, again, tells you how good defensively they are and how active they are in the passing lanes. So they really created 7 of the 10 turnovers. They weren't careless throwing the ball away, turnovers like you see in a sloppy game.
All right, let me jump in there real quick before you run down the rest of the scores. The one win that we've had so far, and I know you're going to run this score down, but I wanted to jump in and segue you to it.
Missouri.
That Missouri win
Missouri
is looking better and better as this season goes on, isn't it?
Man, Coach Pearl said it, and a lot of times you think coaches are just having coach speak, and he said that Missouri team going to beat a lot of people. He said it. He said they're big and they're physical and they're scrappy, and they went to Florida, Randy, which is arguably they just blew Tennessee out last week, and Missouri goes in there and beats them by a point. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive. And watching them play Auburn, I thought they were a good team. I really do. And there are some of these teams that, like Texas, I expect Texas to be a pretty good team by the end of the year, Brett.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. All right, real quick, Texas A&M goes on the road to Kentucky, 81-69. Even though Texas A&M is a good team, that's about what I expected. Here's the storyline for me. I thought LSU was the worst team in the league. I think it's Arkansas. LSU beats them 78-74, and people can say whatever you want. And like you said earlier in the show, at some point in time, you are what you are. Well, Arkansas is 0-4 in the league. So
I said it before the season. Y'all don't have Cal.
Yeah,
I've been watching them. That system that he plays. I know neither of our schools here in this state would trade for him. Hell no. Let Cal go wherever he wants. When I watch them play, Brett, I don't know. What is their identity?
I don't know what their identity is.
I don't know what it is. I almost feel like it's gotten away from him a little bit. When you watch him play watched him play at Kentucky, like, I've got a really good idea at this point what Bruce Pearl is and what we do well.
Well, Cal always had the best players, Randy. That's the thing about some of these coaches you talked about with Krzyzewski, and the hypocrisy of the Zion Williamson thing and Cal and hell, all of them should have won all those games. They always had 10 McDonald's All-Americans, 5 on the floor, 5 on the bench. They always had super freshmen, diaper dandies like Dick Vitale used to say, North Carolina, Kansas, all of them. If you're not winning, something's wrong with you. But he don't have the best players now. And you see what's happening.
And I don't think he's the best X's and O's coach is where I'm going with this. I just watch in-game.
That shows itself. That rears its head when you don't have the best players. That really rears its head when you don't have the best players.
Agree. So, I'm not surprised. He ran the best program, and I'm not saying ran it in the ground because Kentucky wasn't in the ground, but Kentucky, he debored Kentucky basketball. That's what I'm hoping Alabama's about to have go on with their program.
Me and you both. No doubt.
I hope they take a step back to the level that I felt like the last 5 to 7 years when you went and played Kentucky, or you played Kentucky anywhere, if you played them in the tournament, wherever you needed to end up playing Kentucky, there was no worry. That was over. By the last 5 to 6 years of Bruce Pearl at Auburn, and when we play Kentucky, and we've gotten run out of the gym on the road over there from time to time, but we've held our own more times than not against Kentucky. And 8-10 years ago, we play them. I'm like, this is about to be a thumping. There is no chance.
Justin said make it 3. Yeah, go ahead. We need Kentucky. That's where Alabama goes Saturday. As they go to Rupp Arena. That's not the place you want to go after a loss at home for sure. We will watch tonight, Georgia. This team's ranked 23rd. They go to Tennessee, Randy. Tennessee hadn't played really good basketball the last couple of weeks. Georgia has defended home turf. That's who we play Saturday.
Yeah, so if Georgia's going to take the next step like Auburn and Alabama have over the last 5 to 7 years, and I have this feeling that the Georgia fan base, if you watched how many were wrapped around their arena, that they're getting ready and hopeful for them to make this next step in basketball. But you got to go on the road and win some of these tough games.
You do.
It can't just be at home. You got to prove that you can go on the road and win, and you're that good to pull that off, because that's the difference. You got to be exceptionally good to go in some of these environments and win.
Yeah, you got to watch that game tonight because South Carolina's at Vanderbilt, Texas is at Oklahoma, and that's the schedule. Okay, let's get to the junior day list. Again, January 25th is a big day at Auburn. Auburn plays Tennessee in basketball, so all these recruits, these juniors, are going to be flowing into Neville Arena for that game. It's always a big production. We saw this as a major day last year when Auburn had the junior day. And I know Ryan Williams was in there and but all those other guys were too. And a lot of them ended up coming to Auburn because of that particular day. And then it led into Big Cat Weekend and ended up being a big day for Auburn. 2 days ago, the number one edge rusher and by some recruiting service, the number one player in the country, Zion Ely from Maryland, St. Francis Academy, who we got 2 players last year from, got one committed this year from St. Francis Academy. He's made the decision to make the trip. So Auburn, with already players from there, will be hosting him when he comes in, Randy. That was he's committed to Maryland. So, look, I'm not taking a shot at Maryland because they beat us a couple of years ago in a bowl game. But when I look at program history and what we can do as far as the momentum of what Maryland's recruiting at versus what Auburn's recruiting at, that's a big deal, getting him to come down on that 25th of the rest of these guys.
Well, the atmosphere, too, the discrepancy between the two atmospheres that you're going to either get at Maryland or Auburn's going to show off, but you've got to get them there. So many times over the years, the friends of ours that do this on a daily basis, that handle recruits and talk to recruits, Auburn's one of those places you've got to get them on campus and show them what it's all about if you haven't been there before, and it's what closes the deal. So great for us to get him in.
Another big-time player in this class, a big offensive tackle, the number 2 offensive tackle in the country, Emmanuel Ayanecho from Maryland as well, from Rockville, Maryland, will be coming in, Randy. Again, got all the offers, but he's the number 2 tackle in the country. So that's the top 2 players. The third player on this list is Sadarian Morgan. Sadarian Morgan is right here from Alexander City. He's a 4-star. Somehow he's not a 5 yet. I don't know how. He is the number 1 receiver in the country by a lot of recruiting services. But Sadarian Morgan, Randy, is listed right up here with the only 2 5-stars that Auburn has coming in this junior day. And to me, he's a 5-star. He's got the build of a 5-star. You and I watch him on a week in, week out basis in football. So that's a big deal having him on campus too.
Yeah, it definitely is. He's a tremendous athlete, great size, great athleticism, from one of the better families in our community when it comes to, all of our local communities have these certain families that produce one athlete on top of another. And you and I bring it up on our broadcast. They're just certain last names that you want to continue through. And so Sadarian is one of those from that Kelly family in Alexander City that produces one athlete on top of another. He's about 6'4", 6'5". If you haven't seen him play, you want him off the bus first. He's been this size since 7th or 8th grade, but he is a hard worker, a very, very competitive person, but handles his emotions extremely well. And proud to say he's from Alex City, and proud to say that he will represent Alexander City exceptionally well with whoever gets him, but he's going to be offered by everybody out there. So we're playing the game, and getting him in, and we have been playing the game really hard. And we've got a lead recruiter there in Marcus Davis that's as good as anybody at closing the deal.
Yeah, got another 4-star athlete in Derek Cooper from Chaminade, Madonna in Florida. We know what kind of great high school program that is. Also, another kid from Pensacola Catholic, Trenton Henderson. It's a 4-star edge rusher. Some other guys, I'll just run through some of these. Anthony Davis from Grayson, Georgia. Jay Lamar from Colquitt County. Big-time running back, 4-star running back there. Another interior offensive lineman in Parker Pritchett from Carver in Columbus. A heavy Georgia list. When you look down through here, Grayson, Colquitt County, Buford, Langston.
Great
Hughes.
High schools, too.
Every one of them.
You're reeling off schools like Thompson, Phoenix City, Auburn. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, those are the type, Benjamin Russell, those are the programs that you're reeling off where they produce every year. So
absolutely
great programs that you want to have in, because there's 5 or 6 waiting in the wing to come up through the same as the ones that you've got. That's how important that is.
All right, so you're going to have them, you're going to have others, and we'll continue to talk about the list as it grows. I won't go through all of these kids. Commitments, current Auburn commitments in the 26 class that'll be there. The recent transfer from Gulf Shores to Auburn High School, Jamichael Garrett, will be there. Devin Carter from Douglas County, Georgia, the 4-star wide receiver that Auburn just picked up out of the Navy All-American game, was just a massive commitment. I think a lot of people aren't talking enough about that. That kind of got mixed in the mix with Auburn and when Janai Broom went down with ankle, there were other storylines that we were talking about, but getting him to commit, that was a big deal. So he'll be on campus. Shadarius Tootle from Cottage Hill Christian Academy, Denarius Gray, and then Wayne Henry, the other kid I was talking about from St. Francis Academy, that'll be coming down with Zion Ely. They're teammates up there. So hopefully Wayne Henry will have some influence there. There'll also be everybody's asked about Omar Matson from Auburn. He reclassified the 25. Expecting him at any point. I mean, he's got to make a decision in February. He's got to sign with somebody because he's a 25 commit or recruit. So he'll be in as an official visitor during this day. So I wouldn't be surprised if Matson ends up at Auburn, Randy. I mean, just from the feel of it and being part of this and getting close to the deadline, but I may be wrong, but he's a great running back. He's only ranked a 3-star by 24/7, but I think he's got a lot of potential, a lot of high side.
Well, he's coming out of a program that really works him hard in the weight room, and that's the thing that we saw coming out this past summer, Brett, is to watch his body transformation and some of the videos that came out of Auburn High School. I think you went over there at one point in time and either were in there and maybe went to a practice or something, but I can't remember. But I remember you calling me and go, oh my gosh, maybe Jason Caldwell telling us too.
Right.
So strong, not vertically as tall as some backs that you would see, but very strong and very versatile and catches the ball well out of the backfield. So I'd be shocked if we didn't get him.
Justin said, wish we were bringing in Tank Jones, but seems like Bama is going to make a big priority after Auburn did what it did in state last year. I mean, look, they can make it a priority, but right now, all the crystal balls and things that I'm seeing is he's an Auburn guy. Now, again, that who knows? You can change, but I know he's very high on Auburn. Auburn really likes his chances, and again, I don't know that you can get everybody in at one time like you would love, but Auburn's not going to look. They're going to push hard on Tank Jones. Auburn swept this state outside of 2 guys. One went to Ohio State, the other one went to Oregon, and but outside of that, Auburn really did it really, really good in the state. Probably the best you and I've ever seen, Randy, in our lifetime. And they're going to make a push to do the same again in this class. I mean, most of these guys in the top 10, 15 in the state, Auburn is in heavy with, thick with. It's going to take big effort by Alabama. And that's weird to say, isn't it? It used to be flipped on the other side. It's going to take a massive effort for Alabama to come in and take some of these guys away from Auburn versus Auburn having to take them away from Alabama.
Changed a lot. It's the benefit that you're giving Hugh Freeze and this staff is the effort that you're getting on the recruiting front. You just can't complain about at all. Just got to transfer it over to the product that we put out on the field.
Last comment, I'm hoping it's possible to stack these days. Every good athlete getting pressure by handlers to start and make their NIL rise. So, yep, it is what it is. It's the day and age and what we have to deal with. But I trust what our coaches are doing right now, and they're bringing all the top talent in. And if we can just get it to translate the field, I think we'll all be happy. All right, closing out, again, want to thank all of our partners here on the program. Sense of Green, for air that's cool and clean, call them Sense of Green. They are your carrier dealers here in the state of Alabama, offering really good deals on carrier units here to start 2025. It is going to be bone chilling cold next week, down to the coldest we've seen in a long time. So make sure you have your heating and air unit up to par. And if it's not, call on Sensor Green. They'll take care of you. Scout Program Management, glad to have them part of the program now. Your full service construction management firm, pre-construction all the way through the finish of the project. They will handle the details. You know, you got to have somebody in there that is managing the project. And especially on some of these massive projects, Scout Program Management is the company for you. They will handle it from the pre-planning to the end. Bunkers in downtown Auburn, West Glen, great place for great food, to hang out, get you a drink at their awesome bar, play some of the simulated games, rent those bays out, hang out with your friends and family. Outstanding place to go. Parking, like Randy says, is no problem with 50 spots that they have reserved in the parking deck. So easy access right there downtown at Bunkers. Make it your place after Auburn basketball games to go and hang out. And then Sign Source, Randy, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, we're really busy. I'm heading over to Auburn here shortly. We've got a new building that will be opening up the 1st of February that's on Opelika Road to service that community, Auburn and Opelika. Heavy trafficked area right up the street from the mall. It's got an ABS sign up that we'll be getting down very shortly, right beside Laredo's, if you know that landmark there. So stop by and see us when we do get opened. But Sign Source and Lee Apparel can handle all of your customized apparel, embroidery, promotional products, athletic uniforms, start to finish with Lee Apparel. Been in the business over 20 years, and our printers and production people back here in the back, good old Russell guys from Alexander City that know the industry well. And Sign Source, from start to finish, we can design either a wrap, digital boards, everything that you're looking for, and make sure that we get that produced for you and installed. Our phone number is 256-825-0197 for both.
Great stuff as always. Appreciate all the comments out there. Again, Auburn Blitz will be on at noon with Andy and JJ today. They'll have a lot to talk about after last night's games as well. So make sure you tune them in there on Facebook, YouTube, or Charter Channel 701 statewide if you got Charter cable. Randy, good to see you. Have a great day, everybody. War Eagle, and we'll see you in the morning.